Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Canada once again and we're going to be reviewing my first ever beer from Prince Edward Island. So another new province, and I'm certainly looking forward to this one. A huge thank you to my colleague Alicia who brought this beer back with her for me from our recent trip over there. I've complained for a long time on the channel that Canadian beer is like gold dust, but it just so happens that now I'm working with some Canadians who are all from different provinces, so I should have a fairly steady stream of Canadian beer over the next little while, and I'm really quite looking forward to that actually. So we'll see what we can review for you on the channel over the next little while. But for this one we're going to review a beer from the Prince Edward Island Brewing Company, who released their beers under the name Gahan, and this one is their 1772 IPA. It comes in at 6.5%, and this beer is named after the voyage on which Captain John MacDonald sailed from Greenock in Scotland over to settle Prince Edward Island. I think he took about 250 people with them over there on that voyage, so it's my home country spreading our genetic insanity and genetic alcoholism to the new world, which I thought was quite cool. So this is a beer that I think is perfectly or apt, I guess, for my first Prince Edward Island beer review. But as always, I'm looking forward to tasting this one, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. Big thank you once again to Alicia for making this review possible. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done or the other reviews that I'll do in the future, sorry, from Prince Edward Island Brewing Company and the Gahan beers. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, county, state, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Canadian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I can, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the PEI Brewing Company then. So PEI Brewing was founded as Murphy's Brewery originally, by Kevin Murphy back in 1997 on University Avenue in Charlottetown in Prince Edward Island. So the beer soon became quite popular, and so in 2000 they actually had to move their production facility to a 19th century building in downtown Charlottetown. But this brewery was then named the Gahan House Brewery after the original owner, who was apparently quite a prominent merchant a number of years back, and it gave the brewery a permanent home on Sydney Street in the city. In July of 2008 though, the Gahan Brewery opened at another location on Walker Drive in the city, and they began to bottle their beers there, and this of course meant that they spread a little bit further afield. But over the years they continued to grow in popularity, and this led Kevin Murphy to form a partnership with another local entrepreneur, Jeff Squires, and together they formed Prince Edward Island Brewing Company in early 2012. Immediately they began to build a new brewery on Kensington Road, which opened later in May 2013, and this brewery produced the Gahan beers, the After Hour beers, and also the Beach Chair Lager, which was apparently one of the first canned craft beers in Canada actually, which is pretty cool. But yeah, one of the older breweries on Prince Edward Island from what I gather, or one of the ones with the oldest roots I guess you could say, 1997, 20 years is actually fairly old in terms of craft brewing in Canada and America these days actually. You know, that's if you're going back to 1997, I think the only breweries I can think of that are a little bit older than that would be, you know, Sierra Nevada and Steam Brewing Company, of course, the Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco. This is about the same kind of era that the likes of Founders were opening up in America, so I guess this is probably one of the older craft breweries in Canada. I'd be interested to hear from you guys if there are any ones that are older than this. But yeah, I guess this is an apt beer to start off with my Prince Edward Island reviews. But these guys seem to be one of the bigger producers in the PEI province, and yeah, I guess that's all you really need to know about the brewery for just now. So if you want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and keep up to date with what's going on. When I checked out their website, they had a good 12 or so beers listed, but that didn't look as if it had been updated in quite a little while, because all the beers on the thing were in bottle apart from one actually. So this one, since it's in a can, I guess it's been a little while since that website was updated. But yeah, really interesting brewery. Cool to review another one from a different province in Canada, of course, and like I say, a huge thank you to Alicia for making this beer review possible. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So like I said, this beer is named after the 1772 voyage of Captain John MacDonald from Greenock in Scotland to over to Prince Edward Island, where he took about 200 settlers with him. And yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. So this one apparently is hopped with Centennial and Cascade hops, so it should have a nice little bit of grapefruit and sort of lemony notes to it, this one, and there's some crystal and Munich malts in there as well apparently. I'm guessing this is John McDonald's ship down there, if the camera's going to focus on this. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. It says on the side here, bold floral and Tritzer's hop aromas mingle with smooth caramel malt, well balanced bitterness and a crisp finish. Follow on Twitter at Gahan Beer or facebook.com/Gahan Beer. Prince Edward Island, a product of Canada. There you go there, you can see that. But yeah, nicely presented can, this one. So I guess without further ado, let's get it out and get on with the tasting. This one is 473 millilitres, which I'm guessing is one of these crazy North American measurements that's to do with fluid ounces and all that stuff. Easier for me if we just do a half litre, but you know, I'm just happy to get a Prince Edward Island beer for this one. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Looking forward to this. Oh, you can smell some of that German malt in this beer as soon as you open it up. And you can get some of the nice Cascade hops as well, or the Cascade grapefruits as well. Just let that kind of settle down a little bit. But this beer, you can see already, this one is quite a nice, dark, rich, oh, it's almost a blood orange colour, that. If you hold it up to the light and put some light through it, it's a really nice kind of blood orange colour, this one. You can see there's a solid 2.5 fingers of a frothy, kind of creamy beige coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. If I put my fingers behind the glass, there is a degree of transparency to it. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera there. You can see there is a little bit, but it's a fairly hazy beer, this one, albeit nicely presented. But yeah, you know, it kind of looks pretty much as you would expect an IPA to. This one's a nice sort of blood orange, dark amber kind of colour, this one. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this beer. Yeah, so with this one, you can smell the crystal malt in this. It really is a very nice malt to use in brewing, actually, because you can smell it's got this lovely big white bready sort of base to it, and on top of that you get these nice almost bread and buttery notes, but then you get a little bit of a biscuity quality to it as well. And the Munich malt's giving it that lovely big kind of brown bread, not sort of white bready quality, not so much a brown bready quality, but it really, the crystal malt just gives it that lovely kind of more bread and buttery type thing to it. You can pick that up in this beer. There's a good little bit of floral character coming out of it as well, I would say. A little bit of a kind of lemony note, and you can pick up some of these nice grapefruits from the Cascade hop in the beer as well. I mean, it's not anything surprising, to be honest. This one, I think, is more a kind of, it's a little bit more of an old school IPA, this, I guess we should say, compared to some of the things you can get now. Of course, it will be a little bit more of an old school IPA, this. But yeah, it smells pretty nice, actually. It does smell like one of these kind of just old school things, and it's quite a nostalgic smell to this, actually. It really takes me back, you know, to about 2009, 2010, when we were getting the first Brewdog beers back in Aberdeen. But yeah, it does smell quite nice, this. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beers before you get stuck into them. But let's have a go at this one then. So this one is the Gahan 1772 IPA from the Prince Edward Island Brewing Company in Charlottetown in PEI over in Canada. Thank you again to Alicia for giving me this beer. Let's get stuck into this one. I guess this is the most travelled can of Gahan 1772 that there's been so far. It's come all the way back to Sweden. So let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Yeah, I mean, let's say with this beer, it's one of these ones that's, you know, it's one of these ones that, you know, compared to what you can get in the craft beer world just now, this one's a nice, just solid sessioner, if that makes sense. It's a beer that kind of fits very much into that category for me. And I like what this one's doing, because I mean, it has got that sort of New World hoppiness that you would want. It's got a little bit of that in it, but it's also got a lovely kind of big German Malt Base too. I've always been a great fan of the the Munich Dunkels and things like that. And the Czech. Recently, I've been getting into the Czech Chernies and Tmavies and Leipzigs and things like that since I went over to teaching Olomouc for a little while. But with this one, I love the fact that it has that German malt quality to it. It really is very nice. It's one of these beers, I mean, if you think that this beer was introduced back in 2011, it's one of these ones that you think at the time it would have gone down like very, very well. It's a little bit of a nostalgia IPA, this one, for me. I guess, in 2018, if you think back to 2010, the big beer for me back in 2010, 2011 would have been the hardcore IPA from Brewdog. I still love that beer to this day. This one is almost a little bit like a baby version of that. That's what this one reminds me to. But the IPA as a style has really evolved a lot since, it's nearly 10 years ago now. And this beer, I think, is one of these ones at the time, if you go back to 2011 when it was released, it would stand up very, very well. It's almost like a bit of a... It seems a bit strange to call a beer that's not even 10 years old a retro beer, if you like, but it really does kind of remind me of that. I guess, I don't know, maybe for folk in PEI, this is a little bit like, their Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, if that makes sense. It's one of the first craft beers that these guys would have been drinking over there. But yeah, it's not doing anything kind of surprising for the style, if that makes sense. It's one of these beers that it's really well balanced, and it kind of does the job you would want it to. The malt base on this one is nice. I like the sort of German and slightly Czech feel that this one has. You've got a nice kind of malt base. It just blankets the middle of your tongue there with some nice kind of breadiness. That'll be the Munich malt coming out, I would say. I think there will be some Canadian malt in this as well. It did say on the website that they use Canadian barley for this, but there is German malt mixed in there as well. But you can feel there is a little bit of a grainy quality to this one as you go further into the aftertaste. But initially it's got a nice German smoothness to it. On top of that you start to get a little bit of a thicker, kind of doughy bready quality. There's a little bit of a nice kind of biscuity sort of sweetness to the beer. There's a little bit of an almost bread and buttery quality as well. Maybe just a little touch of caramel right in the centre of your palate. And as you come out from that, it becomes a little bit more kind of biscuity and sweet, and you can feel the bready notes just a little bit behind that, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a nicely balanced kind of easy drinking beer, this one. That's a good way to sum it up. I really do love... I mean, I've said for a little while, with the New England IPAs and things like that, you do start to miss the kind of more bready and sweeter malt bases that you get from the likes of the West Coast IPAs. This one, for me, with that nice German malt base, it really just does have that little bit of complexity you want in the malt base. In terms of the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of your palate, you've got a little bit of that floral aromaticity to the beer. It's got a little touch of spice to it, which I think will be the Centennial coming out. As you go round the front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, and then behind the front curve of the tongue, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. There's a nice sort of grapefruity note coming out of this one, which is nice, and that's the kind of classic niche, if you like, or the classic indicator of the Cascade hop. It's a nice beer, this one. It's a solid kind of easy drinking one, if that makes sense, for a craft beer. But yeah, you've got a little bit of a kind of lemony quality in there as well. There is a little bit of an almost lemony sherbet type thing, which will be the Centennial. The Centennial is a really nice, slightly spicy floral hop, and it's got this almost lemon sherbety quality to it. You can get that, the lemon notes kind of come out for me just on the very kind of tip of the tongue, but it's the grapefruit, really, that kind of classic Cascade grapefruit that's just sort of underpinning the malt base in this one. I've actually got a feeling if they took the bulk of this recipe and changed it into like a Cascadian Dark, I think they would really be onto something with this. As an IPA though, it's a very nice beer. If they did like a Dark 1772 or something like that, that could be a really interesting thing. And a 1772 India Black Ale, just put a little bit of black malt in there, or something like that. I think this one would be a really interesting beer, because the way the bready quality comes out and the sort of biscuity and bready type in the biscuity bread and butter type things in this come out, it really is quite nice. If they could make if they could make a Cascadian Dark Ale with this type of feel to it, I think they really would be onto something quite nice actually. It would remind me a lot of the beer I had from Pivovar Antoš in Czech Republic recently. That was a really nice Cascadian dark ale. But as it stands as an IPA, I think the best way to describe this is as one that would, it's quite a nostalgic beer for me, this one. It sort of takes you back to the 2011-2010 area when there wasn't quite as many hops around, but it's got a lovely German malt base to it, this one. It's kind of got everything you would want from the style back in that time, so if you try this beer, I think it's quite a nostalgic one to go back to, and I do like that about it. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this beer is pretty mid-bodied. I think it's a mid-bodied one, this. Yeah, mid-bodied beer. Don't think there's much doubt about that. Nice kind of smooth quality to it. It's got a nice oily mouthfeel to it. I like that about it. Carbonation is fairly smooth in this. Good little bit of malty sweetness, but it's also got a good bit of smoothness from the German malts in there. Nice bit of hoppy bitterness, which is what you'd expect. If I had to guess, probably somewhere around the region of 40 IBUs. Something like that, and a nice juicy fruity quality. As I said, it leans a little bit more towards the grapefruity kind of side of things, but as you go further into the aftertaste of this one, is some of the bready notes, a little bit of the grain from the Canadian malts pushing its way out. You've got a nice little bit of floral quality in there, and the grapefruit and a bit of the lemon is just starting to stick out as well. But like I say, best way to describe this beer is quite a nostalgic IPA from that sort of 2010, 2011, 2012 sort of era, when the style was a little bit simpler than it is today, but in that regard it's a really nice beer. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. To me, this is a really nice kind of sessionable IPA today, and it's cool to go back to something like this, I have to say. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the 1772 IPA from Gahan Brewery, or the Prince Edward Island Brewery, however you want to term it, but really nice beer, this one. It takes me back to 2010, like I said, and I thank you once again to Alicia for making this review possible. I hope you look forward to the other PEI beer reviews that I'm going to do for you over the next little while. But thank you once again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more beer reviews. So until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from PEI Brewery and the Gahan range. Always great to hear from you guys that are watching the channel, like I said, and check out my social media. So until the next time, Slanger just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was the Gahan 1772 IPA from Prince Edward Island Brewing Company in Charlottetown on Prince Edward Island over in Canada. Thanks again to Alicia, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slanger, school.